Coming up now is another sparkling Two Mikes podcast. A tramp wouldn't be seen dead in your old shoes.
Well, maybe you'd like them.
Apparently they can recycle them.
Maybe you'd like them.
Look at the light!
This is TalkSport Extra Time. We are the Two Mikes, and it's that time of the morning. So a very good morning, and a very pleasant morning, I'm sure, to Mr. Mike Porky Parry. Very good morning to you, Mr. Parry.
Yeah, good morning, Mike. And, yeah, of course it is pleasant and all that, but, you know, I've heard that you've been giving Everton an examination, I think it's fair to say, and that's all right. That's all right, because I have to say, you know, the Everton team that came away with the 2-1 victory will have to improve to go to Kiev.
Yeah, is it enough is the big question, isn't
it? Yeah, my frustrations are all about Ross Barkley.
Yeah.
I mean, he plays like a crab. He only ever goes sideways.
Yeah.
What happened to the young boy who's going to take on defences and all that? And when you see Everton playing little triangles around the halfway line, it doesn't get us anywhere. You don't go anywhere. Now, we're very lucky to come away with the 2-1 victory. Let's not argue about Naismith's goal. That was fabulous in the sense that it was opportunistic and he took it. But Lukaku should have missed his penalty. I mean, I'm glad he didn't, but he put it right down the middle. If the goalkeeper stayed where he was, it was a terrible penalty. Yeah. But it doesn't matter.
And that would have been awful if he had.
Yeah.
But also, you've talked about this before, you know, Richard Gough was saying the same thing. The Everton goalkeeper, Tim Howard, he thinks he's to blame slightly for that first goal. He's having a terrible time at the moment.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he was to blame for the first goal. I think, again, Ross Barkley was completely naive. If he was supposed to be marking the man who moved out and just side-footed the ball, it was his easiest goal in the world. Yeah. But to be perfectly honest, the goalkeeper, maybe he should have organised it, had every reason to believe that an opposition attacker wouldn't come in on the blind side of a man marking him in the area, and when he looked behind him, why was there only on the post to have taken up? But they're all technical issues. The point is now, the energy's with Everton, because we play Newcastle at home on Sunday, 4 o'clock. It's not a televised game, but it's 4 o'clock because we played last night. Right. And if they get 3 points there, following week we're going to QPR.
Yes. And
by the way, your invitation's been withdrawn.
Has it? Well, listen,
you didn't respond to it.
Well, as I said to you,
shamefacedly, I had to speak to our.
I'm terribly sorry.
I
can only apologise profusely to him, but not to you. Because I said to you, it was very kind of you to extend the invitation after I said, why didn't you invite me in the first place, which you didn't.
Well, then I did.
But then you did, without telling me. So I hadn't cleared that I could do it.
And then the host went to QPR, acquired another seat at the table for the bit of...
so you've now embarrassed me.
You have? No, I've embarrassed myself, actually, because he's never met you. So all he's hears your voice, he looks at a picture of you, sees you're a bit of a fat blob and all that kind of stuff, and that's all That's all he knows about you. Yeah. What he knows about me is that
I think you've stitched me up on this.
I'm bones and flesh, you know, and I'm
quite a lot of flesh, to be fair.
Yeah, well, you know, you can't be something if you're nothing, if you see what I mean.
Very true.
And now I've got to go there on Sunday and sort of explain the empty seat. You know, like David Cameron, he's going to be empty-seated.
Perhaps I've got to write you a note which you could pass to him, in which I'll explain that, unfortunately, you rather jumped the gun. You went a bit early, and you asked for a seat for me without checking with me if I could go.
David Cameron is to be empty-seated. You're going to be empty-seated on Sunday.
Well, maybe take a picture of an empty seat next to you.
What a pathetic excuse, that this man is offering you a luxurious seat at a Premiership ground to watch a great tie, which has to be won by both games.
Well, it's QPR Everton, to be honest.
But you've got better things to do.
Well, I've got family matters to attend to.
Family matters? What family matters?
I've got family matters to attend to. I've got to drive my kids around to do various things on a Sunday.
Tell me what the family matter is a week on Sunday. What about the family matter this Sunday? You haven't talked about that yet, have you?
This Sunday?
Yes.
What do you mean?
What do you mean? Come on, what are you doing about it?
Doing about what?
Mother's Day.
Mother's Day?
It's Mother's Day on Sunday.
I know it's Mother's Day on Sunday.
Oh, no, you don't, because you just said, what do you mean? You haven't got a clue what day it is.
Well, of course I know it's Mother's Day.
What are you doing for your mother on Sunday?
Well, actually, there's different things going on. My daughter's coming down for lunch because her boyfriend's coming.
Her mother won't be there, though.
Her mother won't be there, no. She's unfortunately in another continent.
Well, exactly, but so is your mother as well. You shipped them both off to
my mother's
America.
Also. Yeah, but it's not Mother's Day in America, funnily enough. Mother's Day in America is not until June.
Well, I know that, but you're in England.
Yeah, I'm in England.
You should celebrate Mother's Day.
So I will be celebrating Mother's Day, yeah, absolutely, of course I will.
But you didn't know what day it was, and I asked you a few minutes ago. No,
I did. No. In fact, only this afternoon, I said to my two boys, you do know it's Mother's Day on Sunday. Would you like to make a card for your mother, or would you like me to buy one for her?
And what was their choice?
They both said they would make one.
OK, that's good. I'll save you a few bob then, won't it?
It will, yeah.
So
I'm quite looking forward to that, yeah.
Getting back to the Everton situation, of course, this means that
what are you doing
for
Mother's Day, anyway?
What am I doing?
Yeah.
I'm hosting a party at the Parry residence down in Surrey. What are you laughing at?
Café de Paris.
No, Shea Parry.
Shea Parry.
Yeah.
So you're having the whole family round, are you?
I'm
for Mother's
having
Day?
the whole family round, nieces, nephews.
When you say hosting a party,
yes,
at the Parry Mansion.
Yes.
Which Parry Mansion?
The one near Kingswood Golf Club in Surrey.
So not your mansion.
Not my mansion. No,
okay. Because I was going to say you wouldn't want to be cooking for everybody, would you?
No,
Get somebody else to do that.
Not at all. Yeah, of course. Get some. We got
women. Get some women to do the cooking.
No, we got caterers in. I don't know whether they're
caterers.
Men. Yeah, I don't know if they're men or women. I don't know what
caterers.
What
Why
gender
are you caterers in for?
Well, because if you don't, the person who's celebrating doubly is my little sister, who is both a mother of two, who will be there.
Right.
It is also her birthday.
Is it?
Yeah, remarkably, on
nice.
Sunday. So do you really think that she should have to take any responsibility for the cooking on the day?
It's the sort of thing I'd have expected you to expect her to do, though.
No, not at all. Not at all. My other sister, is celebrating Mother's Day as the daughter of a mother and the sister of a mother, right?
And then your mother, presumably, will be there
my mother's there as well, My mother is a lady of a certain age. No, expect
what's going to happen when the football comes on?
Well, the Chelsea game is on at, is that 2 o'clock or 1 o'clock? 1:30, I think, something like that.
I think that's live on Talk Sport as well.
Yeah, it is, yeah. So we'll be taking that in. But then the 4 o'clock game is, I think it's Liverpool, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everton are playing at 4 o'clock, but that's not on the telly.
Right.
Because we're only playing not on the basis that we played last night, Thursday to Sunday.
Right.
So that won't be a problem at all. We will take a bit of him.
So you won't have to interrupt the Mother's Day sort of celebrations to watch the football?
We've got about 4 or 5 screens around the area of the house where we'll be. So you'll be able to look at the walls all the time and see what's going on.
Sports bar?
No, well, it is a bit like a sports bar, yeah. It's set up a bit like that, yeah, I have to say.
Very nice.
Yes, yeah.
Well, I hope you have a very nice day.
Well, it will be a nice day. I mean, if you remember it is Mother's Day...
Give
then
my best to your mother
you do as well.
She likes me, your mother, you know.
Well, my mother's never met you.
Yeah, but she's spoken to me on the phone.
I know she spoke to you on the phone, but that's only when you were in drink. That's why she said to me a bit later, she's rather confused with what you were trying to say. But we'll overlook that one. It was great, Roberto Martinez's response after the game. Dignified.
What did you make of all that musical reference he kept making?
Well, I don't know, because some Jew said in this building slapped a load of songs onto what Roberto Martinez... I'd rather listen to what Roberto Martinez had to say rather than the musical taste
it makes more sense.
of some oddity.
It makes more sense, right, when you put it to music than it does when you listen to it without the music.
Didn't make a lot of sense to me, to be honest, but then again, perhaps I'm just a bit brain short or something like that.
Would you like to hear it again?
No, I wouldn't, thanks. No, I wouldn't. No,
okay, we'll play it later then.
Yeah, okay. Will you play it later? I'll go out and make a cup of tea or something like that.
Oh, very nice, thank you.
Because that is to me a denigration.
Anyway, what about this plan of yours to go to Kiev? How many?
Well, I'd love to go to Kiev. Now, I wrote a letter to the TalkSport management some 3 or 4 weeks ago, anticipating
You wrote them a letter?
Yeah, when the draw was made, and I said,
did you post it?
No, I had it delivered.
Did you?
And
why don't you just send them an email?
I won't get into the communication strategy which I employ in these situations, if you don't mind.
Do you know how much a first-class stamp costs now, by the way?
It costs more than...
you don't know, do you?
Yes, it costs 13 shillings.
13 shillings?
13 shillings, yeah.
So that's 13 times 5.
62.5p it costs.
62.5p?
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's 62, isn't it?
No, I think it's 62.
They charge half p.
Anyway, look, let's get this. So I said, I can see the way it's coming. Everything that I predicted has come to pass, okay? A, Everton would be the last team realistically battling to progress in Europe. B, Everton would go to Kiev with an advantage from the first game at Goodison Park. C, there is a political situation in Kiev because it's the Ukraine.
Yeah.
I am a trained observer.
Yeah.
In matters stretching from sport through politics to showbiz to romance to whatever you want, and would be a perfect fit to get over there and give maximum coverage to the situation, both in the country and on the football field.
Have you ever been to Kiev?
No, I didn't, because I was signed up to go to the European Championships and then decided not to.
Right.
Yeah, that was Kiev and Poland, Ukraine and Poland.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, no, I was just wondering if you got any prior sort of experience of the place on the ground.
No, been to Poland, haven't been to Ukraine. Been to Russia plenty of times, and that's the same place.
Yeah.
Well, it was until the Berlin Wall
Have you
fell,
still
anyway.
got a Russian stamp in your passport?
I don't think they stamp your passports when you go into Russia. Yeah, I probably have.
I wonder, because, I mean, how sometimes you go to some countries, you don't like it if you've got a stamp from another country.
No, I think I have. I think I have.
Well, you might have to get another passport then.
Well, I, as you famously know, on one occasion I had to eat my passport when I went to a country that didn't want US visas in your passport.
Yes, I remember you telling me that.
I had to eat it.
Yeah, I had to eat it on the plane.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about Kiev. We'll talk more about many things, of course, and the 20-mile-per-hour mania, which has hit London, which we mentioned last night on the show, has taken an even further twist. This is Talk Sport.
And on Sunday we need to get that feeling that we press them, get the rewards of seeing an outstanding football team with a lot of youngsters with enormous potential.
Talk Sport on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM. The enduring home of football.
It's modern radio, only better.
Be doing. That's exactly what we should be thinking about.
Can you get there very easily?
To Kiev? Yeah, I'm sure you can fly there. I suppose you would have to
There's
fly...
not like some kind of embargo or anything going on.
No, I don't think so. I imagine you'd have to fly through Moscow or Warsaw, or somewhere like that. Or I'll tell you where you get to in the Eastern Bloc sometimes. You go through Frankfurt.
Yeah.
I've done it that way.
Frankfurt and Mainz.
That's right. Something like that. Well, look, the thing is, not down to us, down to the people who so ably run Talk Sport. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And but it is
in their hands.
It's going to be the last competitive game of any English club any British club in Europe, if we accept that both City and Arsenal are on lost missions when they resume their
Which
campaign.
I think you'd have to say they probably are.
I think they probably are.
But you never know. You never know.
Yeah.
Now,
if we went, I would expect you, of course, to behave in the proper sort of manner.
Yeah.
I don't know, you're provoking people in the Eastern Bloc with your extreme right-wing political views and this sort of thing. You know what I mean?
I don't have extreme right-wing views. I'm very moderate. I'm not the one who goes on all sorts of different media, different radio stations, different newspapers talking about mad ideas that you have.
What you think getting rid of obesity is a mad idea?
Yeah, of course it's a mad idea.
Because of course that's what I was up to today.
Yeah, I know.
The nation.
We're going to talk about that in a while.
Is in enthrall about my views and my strategy on getting rid of obesity.
But I'm not the one.
But we will talk about that later.
I'm not the one with the crazy right-wing views. Trust me.
I think what you have to remember is there's an extremely delicate situation in the Ukraine involving very powerful people in the Kremlin.
Yeah.
And just to remind you, those that don't achieve favour with those in the Kremlin have uncomfortable lives. What
are you talking about?
I'm just saying that you don't mess around with the people who run the Kremlin. If you do...
Are you saying you know people in the Kremlin?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying I know the way things work.
Right, OK.
My experience leads me to know the way things work.
If I was to get into any trouble while I was in the Ukraine, you'd no doubt be able to get me out of it with your mates in the Kremlin.
No, I'd leave you behind.
Would you?
I would definitely leave you behind. It'd be a great opportunity.
Well, it's good to know. Good to know. Anyway, what I wanted to say to you was, once again, we were ahead of the curve on this 20-mile-an-hour business in London, because the Daily Mail this morning's got it on their front page.
Utterly outrageous.
The Evening Standard yesterday had it on their front page.
Yeah, utterly
because
outrageous.
I think you'll probably want to congratulate me for being the first person to spot that all these new 20-mile-an-hour signs have been painted all over London.
Well, you spotted they'd been painted, but you didn't actually, you weren't able, and I'm not blaming you for this, you weren't able to interpret the significance of them, because clearly they're painted on the road first, and then the legislation's going to follow, OK?
Well, the significance of 20-mile-an-hour signs on the road is that the speed limit has been reduced to 20 miles an hour. That's the significance.
Yeah, but did you know that to violate it, you'll be fined £100 and 3 points will be put on your licence?
Yes, I did know that.
That is how did you know that?
Because you just told me.
I know, but how did you know that when you saw the 20-mile-an-hour signs yesterday? You didn't.
Well, no, but if you speed, that's the kind of punishment you can face.
Yeah,
but the thing is are they now going to put in more speed cameras to catch more people?
I've already got these in my road.
Yeah.
Down,
a lot of people have.
No, down in Stockbroker Belt, but the reason being is that there's old people's homes in my road and a school round the corner.
Yeah.
So, and it's got a big 20.
And that's actually fair enough.
Yeah, that is fair enough.
Nobody objects to 20-mile-an-hour zones around schools.
But I've got this from the London Evening Standard, right? For those who are lucky enough not to have to live in London, this is the free evening newspaper in London, and about 400,000 or 500,000 people get it now because it's free, whereas the circulation was tumbling before they got rid of the cover price. The reason I tell you that is to illustrate the extent to which it's read.
Yeah.
And they've already marked out the areas, and one of them is the main road that leads to Talksport Towers.
Right.
It's called Stamford Street.
Right.
It runs parallel to... No, it doesn't. It runs at a right angle to... No, parallel. It runs parallel to the River Thames, OK, along the embankment, so to speak.
It does.
And you turn off there and you come down another road to Talksport Towers. That is now 20 miles an hour.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a nightmare. And I'll tell you why it's a nightmare for two reasons. Firstly, you have to concentrate so hard on driving at 20 miles an hour to keep your car down to that speed.
Yeah.
You are clearly distracted from the other issues on the road. other cars.
You're also getting
pedestrians.
overtaken by bicycles.
You're getting overtaken. A bloke was fined for travelling at 41 miles an hour on a pedal bike in Richmond Park this week. Yeah,
that's fast, isn't it?
41 miles an hour, yeah, on a push bike, right? So what I'm saying is, this is a catastrophic move. I've told you before, and I will tell you again, my research indicates that if we put up the speed limit on motorways from 70 miles an hour to 80 miles an hour, you would improve the GDP of the economy of the United Kingdom by 1%, because it means people would be moving goods and services and moving themselves so much more quickly. You would get more efficiency out of a day. Do you accept that?
Well, I don't accept it, no.
Well, why don't you accept it? I've researched it and I've told you that before.
Because you've not been able to actually prove it, because the biggest problem you would face is by the time you reach any city, then it goes down to 20 miles an hour and everything is lost. It's all lost.
I'm about to say that. But actually driving on the motorways could improve the economy of this country by 1% if you put up the speed limit from 70 to 80. That is a proven fact in my view. Now then,
that's not the same as it being a proven fact generally.
Now then, what happens is you then start reducing traffic from 30 miles an hour, which it is at the moment, because I drive very assiduously when I'm, either coming in from Stockbroker Belt or going home, and I pass speed cameras and all that kind of stuff.
You stick to the speed limit at all times.
Well, you have to, otherwise you get flashed, and that's amazing. That in a whole year I've never been flashed by a camera. Despite the fact that I'm driving around there all the time. And I'm now down to 20. Now, the other thing that bothers me, apart from the fact that it distracts a driver to keep his car down to 20 miles an hour, modern-day cars are not designed to travel at any distance at 20 miles an hour. Cars will start breaking down again.
Do you think?
Cars don't break down anymore.
What, you mean because they're not using enough of their kind of gearing ratio or something?
You know as well as I do, if you don't use a car for a long period of time, by the time you get back in it, all the oil will have fallen into the bottom of the sump. Yeah. There will be sediment from petrol lying in the bottom of the petrol tank.
Because they do say you should take your car out for a good run, don't they?
A car is like a dog. It needs exercising on a regular basis. Otherwise, it gets sort of what you might call engineering arthritis.
Yes.
And that's not a good thing.
Yeah, I think you're actually right about that. I think driving around the town at 20 miles an hour is... Well, it's created a lot of problems. Like I said last night, what it's also doing is when there are people driving around late at night, some of them might be impaired in one way or another, and they're all slowing down to doing about 15.
Yes, that's
so you're now stuck behind people doing 15 miles an hour.
The other issue, and I just don't know how they reconcile this with their so-called green views, is if you're driving at 20 miles an hour, you're pumping out a lot more carbon dioxide because it takes you longer to get along that road. Do you see what I mean?
Hey?
So you accept that?
I accept what?
Why weren't you paying attention?
Because I was distracted.
Why were you playing with your tablet?
Because I'm trying to read the tweets as they come in.
Yeah, well listen to me first.
Well, I can
what I say is more important than any blinking tweet.
Well, only you think that.
No, I know that.
Here's what Mars said. Ukrainian married women fancy older British blokes. Mike Parry is a good chance of finding the first Mrs. Parry. And there's a very nice picture here which has been sent in of a lady in Ukrainian national dress.
Very nice.
So now you'll see why I was distracted. Sorry, my apologies.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is, if you drive along Stamford Street, which I would say is about 600 yards long.
Something like that.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, something like that.
So you turn into Stamford Street, it's 20 miles an hour now, and you drive to the end. Yeah. That will take you, at 20 miles an hour, approximately 35 seconds. Yeah. Okay?
Right.
If you were driving at 30 miles an hour, it would only take you 25 seconds. That means you are pumping an extra 10 seconds of poisonous carbon dioxide.
Isn't it monoxide?
No, monoxide. That's right. Poisonous carbon monoxide into the atmosphere along Stamford Street.
Because you're taking longer.
Because you're taking longer to go down the road. Right. Therefore, threatening the health of people, particularly those who only have 1/3 of their heart working, like me, who could now be under threat again.
I don't think they've thought this through, because you're right. There will be much more pollution if there's more cars taking longer to get through the city.
Yes.
It's ridiculous.
It is. And do you know what I think it is? Because I've noticed this in the last couple of days. I think, what is behind this 20 miles an hour? Yeah. It's a drunk's charter. There are so many people intoxicated now in London, staggering around, falling off the pavement. I've seen it happen every night. You have to be ever so careful. If you hit a drunk at 20 miles an hour, you got less chance of killing him than you hit him at 30 miles an hour.
That is true.
I think it's a drunk's charter.
On digital radio and 1089 and 1053 AM. Talk Sport.
Food, glorious food. Don't care what it looks like. One's underdone crude. Don't care what it looks like.
Just thinking of growing fat.
Our senses are reeling. One moment of knowing that. Full of feeling.
This is TalkSport Extra Time. I'm Mike Graham. He's Mike Parry. We are the two Mikes. There will, of course, be a podcast coming out at about 9 o'clock this morning, as there always is. Mr. Parry, I have to question you because you made an appearance on another radio station earlier on today, Jeremy Vine's show on Radio 2. Which is fine, obviously, you're entitled to do that.
Exactly.
The funniest thing about it, though, is that they've had you on before, haven't they?
Yes.
And they've even had you on Radio 4 in the past.
Yes.
Billed as an obesity expert.
That's right,
Now,
absolutely.
where do they get this from?
I don't know, but do you know what they do?
Why do they think you're an expert?
I don't know, but they're so keen to get me on, and they go to such lengths. That when I said, no, here.
It's great, isn't it?
I said once, and this was Radio 4, and it was the afternoon, and it's the wonderful world of radio we work in. I said, I can't get to the studios in town, I'm sorry. I said, no, I can't go to your Surrey studios, I'm just too busy in there. Said, don't worry, and they sent this mobile studio, which was parked outside my house. Right. It's like one of those motorhomes.
I've seen them, at
the Formula One racing.
They used to bring one of those to the Express sometimes to get you to do the review of the papers or whatever it was. It's ridiculous. It's like something like Breaking Bad.
Yeah, well, they used to, when they said that, I thought, fine, because there used to be a black cab with an aerial. They used to wind up from the roof, do you remember? And it used to say BBC on it and whatever.
I don't remember that.
Oh, but these are like motorhomes. They've got like beds in them and all sorts of things. Anyway, point of the story is that one of the reasons I was so keen to do it today was it's a new report on overweight and, people have got to lose weight and all this kind of. But within that report, what was hidden, which has come out, is that the NHS employs 700,000 people. Yeah. Think about that number. Yeah. 700,000 who are clinically obese. Right. Who are supposed to be.
Well, they employ them, surely.
They do. They do.
They employ them.
The scheme unveiled yesterday is to also to help 700,000 overweight NHS staff who have been told they've got to slim down.
So these are just people that work for the NHS?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
That's extraordinary,
That's exactly what I'm saying. That, when you go along these hospitals, you're too fat, you're obese and all that, the person telling you've got a good chance that... I mean, how many people work for the NHS? About 1.2...
well, it's the second biggest... it was the second biggest organisation behind the Red Army, is what I know.
The only other one bigger than it was the Indian railway system, absolutely right, and the People's Army of China, wasn't it?
Yeah, it must be China now, because the Red Army doesn't really exist anymore, does it?
Exactly, that's right, yeah. But 700,000 people in the NHS, it's just... How many people work in the NHS? I thought it was only about 1.2 million anyway. Yeah. Which means that more than half of them are obese. Yeah. Now, what I said to them was, and now we'll concentrate on our show rather than what I was doing earlier in the day, is that if, for instance, you had a load of arsonists... Yeah, working for the fire brigade... You'd have to do something about that, wouldn't you?
Yes, that's true.
If you had a load of criminals working for the police, you would have to do something about that.
You certainly would hope to think so.
So when you find out you've got a load of obesitors, right? Obesitors.
Is this a new phrase you've come up with?
700,000 working for the NHS. You'd actually rather think that somebody in government, like the health minister, might say, look, I'm afraid we've got to get rid of these 700,000 fat people, which is what obesitors are, because they're supposed to be setting an example.
But is this one of those things where they're claiming that they're obese on the grounds that their BMI is too high, or they're actually physically grotesquely large?
No, according to the records, they are obese. And the way I described it, the way I'll describe this programme now is, if you are overweight and obese, you are guilty of body vandalism. Right. And the body that you're vandalising is yours. Yeah. It's self-inflicted.
Which, of course, when you live in a free country, that's all well and good. However, the problem is that if we then start spending NHS money on fixing these things, then that's when it starts to become a problem. But I mean, there was the usual reaction to you appearing on the BBC, which was sometimes retweeted this afternoon. One or two words of encouragement.
Yes, lots of words of encouragement and praise. But
one from Spiky Harold.
Isolated word of attack, are you?
No, actually no. Spiky Harold, I'm going to find you, who says completely agree with Mike Parry about vending machines in hospital. Wise words, as always, from Mr. Parry.
Thank you.
But there were some other ones which called you some names which I can't actually read out on the radio.
I don't mind.
Were mostly along the lines of where did they find this Mike Parry bloke?
Yeah, well,
because it's very amazing to me that the BBC, a very esteemed organisation, which is currently in the midst of all sorts of problems with Jeremy Clarkson, has somehow worked out that you're an obesity expert.
Well,
on what grounds have they done this?
Well, they're a big organisation, lots of experts, so they don't make mistakes. BBC don't make mistakes. Now, what I was going to say was, I also said, look, it's tough love to get people off obesity, okay?
Yeah, right.
So what you need to do is, if your partner in life is getting fat, and I didn't express whether that was a man or a woman or anything else,
right.
you should point at the partner and go, ha, 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 roly-poly, ha, 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 Michelin man, ho, 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 ho. If it's a man, you should go, ho, 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 Billy
And were
Bunter.
you in the studio doing this?
Yeah, I was, yeah.
And what was
Ho, ho,
Jeremy
ho,
Vine
Billy
saying
Bunter.
when he was looking at the size of you?
Well, actually, Jeremy Vine wasn't running the show today. It was a guy called Paddy.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Paddy?
Yeah.
Was he just walking off the street?
No.
So sorry, Jeremy can't make it. Yeah, can you do it? What's your name? Paddy, and you come.
No. Jeremy's on holiday, I assume.
The wheels are really coming off at the BBC, aren't they?
No. I assume he's on holiday or on leave or something
Right,
like
okay.
that. So actually, funny enough, when I walked in and Paddy was there,
Yeah.
he vigorously shook my hand and said, "Oh, it's Mike Parry, the legend." I was supposed to be the guest,
Right.
but anyway, that was by the by.
Well, I mean, was there another guest there who was against you?
Well, there was a doctor
Right.
who represented Unite,
Right.
the
right.
union for which most of these NHS people work
No,
for.
right. He would have been really fond of you then.
Yeah, but he was down the line. He wasn't actually in
right.
physical presence
So
in
he
the
couldn't-
studio.
I mean, because there is a certain
Yeah.
irony.
Yes.
Forgive me
Yeah,
for
there
saying
is,
so.
yeah, exactly.
That you are an expert on obesity.
Oh,
given,
yeah, well,
given your body shape.
Well, I'd never met this doctor, and he was down the line. He wasn't the only one. And
Yeah.
they'd obviously primed him. So
Yeah.
he said, well, you don't set a very good example. I said, that's a choice. I said, that's a lifestyle choice.
Yeah.
I said, I am as I am because I like drinking bottles of Pinot at the weekends.
Yeah.
I said, I enjoy good food when I do. I said, during the week when I'm working,
Right.
I discipline myself. I said, and I eat a lot of peanuts. I said, because they the salt in them reacts with the chemical in beer. It makes me feel good.
Right.
But
What did he say to all that? Did he say that was unwise or not?
Yeah, I said, but I don't care if it's unwise. I said, I don't work for the NHS.
Right.
I said, if I worked for the NHS, I would go on a diet. I said I ran a very successful TV project 2 or 3 years ago and lost 2 stone
Right.
to slim myself
Which
down.
one was that?
Oh, I haven't got time to go
You
into
never
that.
told me about the successful one. You've only told me about the unsuccessful one.
Never mind. Let's move on.
Okay.
And
You said the time, by the way.
And yeah, don't worry about the time. This is important. And so I said you should laugh at your partner. Ha ha ha, Billy Bunter, Bessie Braddock. You should also, the NHS should spend part of their massive, and I mean massive budget of billions of pounds, putting adverts in papers and saying, if you are frightened of looking in a mirror, it's because this is what you'll see, and have pictures of very fat people.
Yeah.
And say this is what you look like. You can't hide away
So
from
you think
it.
they should waste more public money advertising? Is that
Well,
what
I
you're saying?
think that would be more effective than, do you know what they're telling them to do? Go to Zumba classes.
Right.
Go to Zumba classes
Right.
to keep your weight down.
What is a Zumba class?
Well, it's, I do a bit of Zumba.
Do you?
It's a sort of Brazilian sort of shaking dance like this. No, seriously, you do, yeah.
Is it?
Yeah,
I must
it is,
give
yeah.
that a try.
And, a bit on the hips as well
Right.
and all this kind of
Okay.
stuff. Yeah, it is, yeah,
Okay.
really, yeah.
It's not African-based, is it? Zumba dancing? So it's Brazilian?
It is Brazilian. It originated in the
Copacabana?
No, not the Copacabana. In the Amazon rainforest.
Oh, okay.
By the Indians.
Oh, right.
Well, the Indians who lived there.
The local natives, yes.
That's right, local
Thank you very
natives,
much
yeah.
indeed. He's a font of all knowledge
Yeah,
and
I
an
am.
obesity expert.
I
Absolutely
am.
extraordinary. I must get on to Radio 2
Yeah.
and see what other experts they've got
Definitely,
lined
yeah.
up for the next shows coming
Good
up the
idea.
rest of the week.
Good
This
idea.
is Talk Sport Extra Time. We don't need any experts here because we are expert enough.
Yeah.
He's Mr. Parry, I'm Mr. Graham, and we are the two mics. More coming up.
Talk Sport on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
Freedom for sport.
Can we kick it? Yes, we can.
Talk about tidy houses in a moment.
We certainly are.
But we'll hear more about your obesity plan
I
first.
just to emphasise my point on
Yeah.
obesity
Yeah.
and why the NHS are so at fault for not getting on the issue.
Yeah.
Every day we are reading, and I've got the facts and figures here because I only deal in facts and figures.
I
Right?
know that, yeah.
Every day we are reading
Well-known fact.
about the NHS, certain departments and divisions around the country ordering new ambulances at the cost of £400,000 so they can take 50 stone people to hospital.
Mad, isn't it?
50 stone people. And these have to be equipped with lifts and
Right.
hoists and
Yeah.
electronic...
And presumably all the people that are shifting them around
Yeah.
then claim for some kind of injury.
Yeah,
and
for their
then that
backs
goes on
gone
for
and all,
years and years.
and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? I mean, they have mortuaries now in hospitals where they've had to extend the slab because the people are getting so big and so heavy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a scandal that they're not on it. But anyway, enough of that. This clean bandit stuff.
Let me before we do that, let me mention a couple of things. A couple of tweets coming in for you.
Sure.
Here's one from James, who says, very unpatriotic, but I'm hoping Afghanistan stuff England to put the final nail in the coffin of Peter Moores. There's cricket coming on this morning later on, because
England
of course...
playing Afghanistan Does anybody care?
It's the ultimate dead rubber of dead rubbers.
Exactly.
Peter says this, arsonists as firemen or criminals employed by the police is obviously unacceptable. What about obese men as experts on obesity?
I think that you get it from the horse's mouth if you employ an obese person to talk about obesity.
True. Yeah. Mark says, Porky said Paddy shook his hand vigorously, calling him a legend. I thought he didn't shake hands for health reasons.
Well, he grabbed my hand, and I didn't want to be rude and sort of pull it away,
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And here's one from Woodenhead, who says, please get a video of Mike Parry doing the Zumba.
Yeah.
It would be the highlight of my week.
There is one.
Is there?
There is one on my own website.
Oh, is there?
The Zumba, yeah.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, but it's...
We'll have to check that out.
It's not terribly popular, to be honest.
No.
But,
and here's one from Sean, who says, Porky can always catch Jeremy Vine on eggheads because he's so good at quizzes.
Oh, really? Is that what he does?
Well, apparently, yeah.
Oh, yeah, good man, okay, yeah. I mean, they're quite a dynamic duo, Jeremy and Tim, because Tim, of course, his brother, is one of Britain's leading one-liner comics.
He is.
He always wins the old Edinburgh Festival and all that. They live around the corner.
We still don't know who this bloke Paddy is, though.
Sorry?
I still don't know who this bloke Paddy is.
It's terrible, isn't it? I should know, but I didn't pick up his surname.
No, you didn't pick up his name. Yeah, it's shocking.
No.
Shocking.
Well, listen, when you're doing a show with someone, you say, well, the thing is, Paddy. You don't say, well, Paddy McGrogan or anything like that,
yeah,
do
but
you?
you think you'd take the trouble to actually find out who he was.
Well, they told me who he was. I've just forgotten.
Yeah,
I meet a lot of people in a working day.
It's not important to you.
So, anyway, look, we got the obesity out of the way. Now, the clean thing, right? I love this because I'm going to use you as an example.
Yeah. Now, you are going to be speaking now as somebody who doesn't do any cleaning at all, right?
But who keeps the cleanest house you can imagine?
Just answer the question. Do you do any cleaning at all?
It's irrelevant, that question.
Do you do any cleaning at all?
That
I'll ask you for the third
question is irrelevant.
I'll take that as a no.
The question you should ask is, do you keep a very clean house? And the answer to that is yes.
Yeah, but you don't do any cleaning.
I don't need to.
Because you have a housekeeper.
I'm not a cleaner. I'm no good at it.
You have a housekeeper?
I have a housekeeper.
No good at cleaning?
Well, I tell you what.
That is a total cop-out.
I tell you what.
Everybody's good at cleaning.
Hang on. I more or less clean my place down on the coast, and it is immaculate.
What do you mean, more or less?
Whenever my sisters come round...
What do you mean, more or less?
Well, I mean, I do, things like... I spray the sinks in the bathroom and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, very good.
Wipe and clean and all that, you know what I mean?
Do you hoover?
No, I don't hoover.
So if you don't hoover and you've never hoovered the place and nobody else has,
no.
it must be covered in dust.
No. I have a woman who comes in and hoovers.
You got another woman?
Yeah.
So you've got two housekeepers?
She does, the woman who does it down on the coast does all three apartments on the same floor. It's a facility which is provided by the management company, of which I avail myself.
Okay.
So I don't go out and hire a cleaner. She's there and she does it.
Well, why don't you get her to do the same amount of cleaning as your other woman does?
Well, because she's not always there when I am, if you see what I mean.
I see.
So when I leave on, say, a Sunday, and I'm coming back here to join you on a Monday night show or something like that, I give the old, bathroom sinks a bit of a swish around and all that kind of stuff. The
bit of bleach, maybe?
Yeah, bit of bleach. The kitchen sink I do and all that kind of stuff.
You clean the oven?
I don't use the oven a lot down on the coast.
You don't use it?
I don't use it a lot down on the coast,
So you don't clean it either, then?
Well, I've never personally cleaned it, but the cleaners have. The cleaning people have.
So do they have access to your apartment, then?
Yes, they do, yes.
Well, even that room that you've got locked?
I don't have any locked rooms.
You had a locked room when I was there.
No, I don't.
I couldn't open it.
Rubbish.
Yeah, it's locked.
Don't be ridiculous.
I thought you had somebody in there.
There's nobody... I don't have any locked
There
rooms.
was a locked room.
It's a myth.
I don't know what was in there.
It's a myth.
And you got very cagey when I asked you about it.
I swear to you, that's a myth.
And suddenly we were being hoisted out of the apartment and going on a ferry one-way trip to Portsmouth.
It was a one-way trip as well.
What's in the room?
There's nothing in the room.
Why is it locked then?
It's not locked.
It is locked.
There are no locks on my doors down on the coast.
Really?
So, stop this drivel.
Okay.
Okay?
I must have made a mistake then.
You have made a mistake.
Yeah.
Now then, what the reason I'm talking to you about this is it's absolutely brilliant, okay? Because, you can say, oh, he's got a clean house, he's got a mucky house and all that. There's a few pictures around of Ed Miliband's house at the moment. Because,
his kitchen.
Yeah, exactly. Because what Mr. Miliband is doing now, 2 years ago, he was, when the Prime Minister David Cameron had a picture of his children at breakfast, he said, I wouldn't use my children as photo props for electioneering.
Yeah.
But in the last month, he's changed his mind.
Right, of course.
There's pictures of them walking through the park with their scooters and all that. Now there's a picture of them drinking tea in the kitchen and all that.
But also his kitchen was kind of criticised, wasn't it? Because he tried to make out it was this very minimalist kitchen with nothing in it.
No, it's been revealed now that's not the kitchen.
I know.
That is the ante-room to the kitchen.
He can't do anything right, this guy, can he?
No, he can't get anything right. It's not his kitchen. It was a, what do they call the thing where you put the washing machine in?
Yeah, it was a sort of utility utility
room. That's right. Yeah. Anyway.
That's where he should be, in the utility room.
Oh, you see,
That's about as useful as he is.
The right-wing politician coming out again. You say I said
it doesn't make me right-wing. I just don't like Ed Miliband, as you call him.
Okay. Now, well, I don't like any of them. I don't like the fact that David Cameron's destroyed our defence capabilities, scrapped the Ark Royal, neutered and what's the word I'm looking at? Emasculated our fighting men. I just don't like it at all.
No.
Don't like Nick Clegg because I think he's a jerk.
Right.
And I don't like Ed Miliband because he looks like a weirdo.
Not much to write home about.
No,
really.
there's not.
No.
Right, now then, the reason we're talking about this is because a book has been written, okay?
Yeah.
And the book, I'm not joking, it's called The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying.
Oh, yeah.
That's the name of the book. Written by a Japanese author called Marie Kondo, K-O-N-D-O, okay?
Right.
This book has taken the world by storm and already sold 2 million copies.
I haven't ever heard of it.
2 million copies, okay? And what it says is that, the person who has the tidy mind, who tidies up their house, keeps it spotless and clean, will have a tidy and more successful life.
Cleanliness is next to godliness.
Yes.
Will be the next thing they come out with.
Yes.
Right.
Now, I'm reading here...
How droll.
Sorry?
How droll.
Well, I'm reading here a review of this book by a lady called Catherine Ostler, who's quite a well-known...
I know Catherine Ostler.
Yes, quite a well-known Fleet Street commentator.
Yeah.
And
she says... stories about her, if you like.
That's for off-air, if you don't mind.
All right.
So that's... I hate smug, neat freaks, right? Proud of your tidy home, get a life, says Catherine Ostler. And she goes on to say, Kondo's bossy little book has become a gospel to her followers with its simple message, a mixture of the sensible, the obvious, and the plain silly.
Yeah.
She says, for instance...
she's very sensible about it, isn't she?
She says,
she's basically saying it's all cobblers.
Discard everything at once, keep only what you love, and the best way to store bags is in another bag. She says, that's a bit too obvious for me.
Yeah.
There's a lot of this gobbledygook talk of Japanese-style folding.
Yes.
So...
Well, the Japanese are famous for sort of folding one thing into another, aren't they? And having beds that pull out of a wall and all that.
Exactly.
And sleeping in a kind of porthole.
But in my view, the basic principle is this. If you keep a tidy home, you keep a tidy mind, you have a successful life. I'm an example of that. I'm an example. Now,
your mind is all over the place, though.
No.
The least tidy thing in
your
your entire makeup is your mind. I agree that your houses are quite tidy.
Yes.
But your mind is a complete kind of miasmic explosion of ideas.
No, it's not.
Most of which you can never quite get to grips with.
Now,
it's not tidy at all.
Now, a few weeks ago, the mother of your children, who spends most of her time in the shack down in Kent, in the
Which
field.
It's not a shack, actually. It's not in Kent either.
So she was Sussex. She was coming up to visit you up here.
Yeah.
You had to get your daughter Emma over on an emergency mission to clean the place up.
No.
No,
I asked her to help me clean the place.
So she came over on an emergency mission.
An emergency mission.
Tidy the place. It was such a pit.
She came over for lunch.
It was such a pigsty.
No.
It was such a...
She came over for lunch.
Such a hovel.
No.
That you had to get it cleaned up quick.
Not
and
true.
you couldn't cope with the amount of work needing to be done.
Well, I don't employ a housekeeper for one thing, right?
Because every civilised person should have a housekeeper.
Well, that's very nice of you. As the man of the people, I'm sure that every single bus driver, every single milkman who's listening to the show, every single lorry driver will be going, I know, I should go out and get a housekeeper. Well, that's what I need to do.
Well, Brian Clough...
How bourgeois are you?
Brian Clough, who said he was a socialist, was once asked, how come you've got a Mercedes then, Brian? He said everybody should have a Mercedes.
Well,
I say the same.
Right.
I say the same.
So you think everyone should have a Mercedes?
No, I think everybody should have a housekeeper.
Right. Well, you're talking absolute rubbish.
No,
Most people can't afford a housekeeper.
They're not expensive.
Yeah, really? How much do you pay her?
I pay her... Let me work this out.
2 housekeepers you've got, right?
£15 an hour.
£15 an hour. So how many hours a week is that?
4 in one case, 2 in the other.
So that's 6 altogether?
Yeah.
6 times 15. 6, that's 80 quid a week.
It's 90, actually.
90 quid a week. So you think everyone can afford that?
Well... I
think you're insulted the entire nation.
No.
Most of the people who listen to TalkSport cannot afford 90 quid a week for a housekeeper.
If you gave up fags, right, which some people spend 90 quid a week on, do you know they now cost over like £10 a packet? You buy a packet of those every day, that's £70 a week. So give up fags, you've got a housekeeper.
Yeah, right.
No problem.
Yeah, your logic is
no
absolutely
problem.
incredible. Absolutely unbelievable.
On DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
A terrific performance.
Turn of pace and eye for goal.
Shout about it.
Talk Sport.
Some very interesting tweets have come in on the subject of your independence. Here's one from Alan the Milkman, who's texted into 81089. He says, I've got a housekeeper, she's called a wife. And Paul in Hatfield says, I'm a coach driver and I have a house cleaner who also babysits and cooks and costs me nothing. She's called my wife.
Well, you see, this is terribly sexist.
I'm not sure about costing you nothing, to be honest.
This is absolutely, sexist to call your wife your housekeeper and all that kind of stuff. I mean, if I'd have ever got married and treated a woman like that, I'd feel pretty...
Oh, come off it.
Pretty rotten about it, to be
If
honest.
you got married, you would have expected your wife to stay at home and not go to work?
I'm not sure that's true at all. I like women who are independent.
Really?
Who are dynamic, go-getters.
I said to you the other
leaders
day,
of men.
because there was that story in the Daily Mail about benevolent sexism, that you actually fitted the profile of somebody who was a benevolent sexist, somebody who opens doors for women, somebody who actually...
Hang on, that's not benevolent sexism, that is chivalry. That's called chivalry.
No, it's not. Not
Yes, it
anymore. According to a new study, you're keen on these studies, right? Psychologists have found that a friendly or chivalrous attitude can mask chauvinistic and patronising views because the men see females as weak creatures in need of their protection.
That is
which
utterly
is exactly
outrageous.
what you do.
Utterly outrageous.
You do think that you need to protect women.
Well,
you won't allow women to buy a drink for you. You won't allow women to buy you dinner.
That's
you
right.
won't allow women to do the things that you think are manly things, right? So therefore you are one of these new benevolent sexists.
No, it's chivalry. I tell you what, I read a piece by Emma Watson. Is Emma Watson the Harry Potter actress?
She is indeed.
That's right. And she's worth about 16 million or something. Did we mention this the other night?
We did, yeah.
And she says...
But everybody has followed it. Once again, they've listened to our show and they've followed it all up. And there's all sorts of pieces. A piece here in the Independent. Yeah. And it's a guy called Jin Go, who's a psychologist from Northeastern University in Boston. Why is it strange?
Well, Jingo, Jingo, by Jingo.
Jingo? Well, by
his name?
Jingo. Well, his name is Jingo. Jingoh. Psychologist, Northeastern University, Boston. He says, while many
gin
people...
and tonic.
No, while many people... See, why are you making fun of his name?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. That was a bit rough, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's terrible.
Or maybe
Absolutely
gin
awful.
sling.
Maybe.
Didn't you drink 36 gin slings last time you were in Raffles in Singapore?
No, that was Alan Brazil.
No, I think it was you.
No, it's Alan Brazil. He was given a certificate. He was sitting there with two other people, and the guy came over to him and handed him a certificate and said, "Congratulations, Mr. Brazil. You've drunk more Singapore gin slings than anyone's ever drunk in the history of Raffles."
Yeah.
And he still didn't know what they were talking about.
No.
This is what this guy says. While many people are sensitive to sexist verbal offences, they may not readily associate sexism with warmth and friendliness. But unless sexism is understood as having both hostile and benevolent properties, the insidious nature of people like you, of benevolent sexism, will continue to be one of the driving forces behind gender inequality.
So does this mean that in future I've got to give up the practice of opening a door for a lady?
Yeah, you should.
What, and just let it slam in her face?
No, you shouldn't necessarily make it slam in her face.
But this is outrageous.
But what you should give up is the process of never allowing a woman to buy a drink, never allowing a woman to buy you dinner, and thinking that women need your protection.
In the whole of my life, I have never had a woman say, "Don't open that door for me." I've had... Every single woman I've ever opened a door for has always smiled sweetly and said, "Oh, thank you very much indeed."
Smiled sweetly?
Women like...
How about just smiled? You see, you've just done it again. You've just done it again.
No, I haven't.
You've made a condescending remark about a woman smiling sweetly.
All right.
You can't help it. It's in your DNA.
Think of a smile exhibited by somebody like the international money-making machine, Tony Blair.
Yeah.
Think about his smile.
Yeah.
You wouldn't call that a sweet smile, would you?
I would, actually.
No, you wouldn't.
I think he's got a very sweet smile.
Rubbish. He's got a wide, big, expansive... my teeth look like the keyboard off a
Hammond organ.
Yeah, a grand piano.
Yeah.
And this is a smile which is completely and utterly insecure. But I want people to like me.
But you...
I want people to like me so that when I retire as a Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, I can go to America, make about £600 million, pretend to be an international peace negotiator. But what I'm really doing is negotiating contracts to pay me tens and 20 millions of pounds to
Why are you changing the subject to Tony Blair?
Introduce A to B and B to C.
Blair.
Well, I'm trying to make out to you a sweet smile is a lady who comes through...
Well, would you describe a man as having a sweet smile? Any man?
No.
No, you wouldn't.
I don't know any man who's got a sweet smile.
So that's sexist then?
But a woman who's got lovely pouting lips, which are cherry red and rather... What did I think of? Rather...
You're not getting yourself out of this one.
Hang on, rather coquettish, and she smiles, a bit like... I've seen a picture of him in tomorrow morning's paper. It's a bit like Posh Spice, right? That is, to me, an enchanting and sweet smile. And that's the sort of smile I get every time I open a door for a lady.
No, see,
I step out the way, and the lady goes past elegantly in her high heels and, her sort of,
so you don't think
any
of this is sexist in any way?
No, of course it's not. Of course it's not.
What about AP McCoy? He actually managed to win a race yesterday at Cheltenham. Now, I would describe him on the front of the Telegraph Sport as wearing quite a sweet smile.
I think it's a beatific smile, and we're all very warm towards him, and we're delighted he won today because it was the penultimate day of the meeting.
Yes.
Is it the penultimate day? Or has it gone on
Saturday?
the
Gold Cup is today, isn't it? Friday.
Today's Friday.
Yeah.
So yesterday was the middle day of the meeting. Then.
It was day 3.
Day 3
out of I suppose 4. I don't know if it's Saturday.
No,
as well.
I don't.
I think it finishes on Friday, doesn't it?
Well, it usually finishes after the Gold Cup. You're right, it must finish on Friday. So it was the penultimate day, as I said originally, and he got a winner in the afternoon. I saw the race, actually. I think he won by 5 lengths. Yeah. So we're all delighted because it would have been shocking had he gone through his very last meeting at Cheltenham, not won. By the way, do you know where he's going to be next year? Now, this is where I have ambitions to end up. I might even take you with me.
Oh, yeah, where's that?
Well, this is the point, you see. I'm not sure
would you mind checking with me first before you make any plans?
Well, you turn down seats at Premier League grounds and... Now, see that picture there on our internal monitor screen?
Yes.
And you see, that's at Cheltenham, and see behind it, there's a skeleton of a new stand going up, OK?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Looks like a multi-storey car park.
Yeah, well, it's a new stand, I think, right? And when that's finished, right at the top will be something called the Cheltenham Club.
Oh, yeah.
And it will cost £15,000 a year to become a registered member.
Really?
You can go to as many or as few days of racing at Cheltenham as you want.
Right.
I don't think there's an awful lot of racing
there's
at Cheltenham.
not many meetings,
No, I
is
don't
there?
think there is, no. But when you go, you get admission to the Cheltenham Club, and you get, like, free four-course meals, free booze. You can take guests with you.
Free booze?
Free booze.
Well, up to an unlimited amount.
Oh, unlimited.
Well, they won't let you join, will they?
Unlimited. You could drink yourself insensible.
Well, they won't let you join.
You, of course,
Once
have your
they
own...
know how much you
your
want
own
to take in.
Private and personal balcony to overlook the course.
Well, you have your own cleaner.
Well, they'll have cleaners who clean the place. I don't know why you're going on about cleaners for. You're stressed by cleaners.
Well, no, you are.
Getting back to that book, by the way, Christine Ostler says...
Catherine Ostler.
Yeah, Catherine Ostler.
See, you forgot her name already.
No,
she's an unimportant woman to you.
No, she's
you
not
don't
unimportant.
care who she is. She's a woman. Call her any name you like.
On the day she wrote this, she said, got friends coming round tonight for a dinner party, ovens full of chicken, all that kind of stuff, wines in the fridge and all that. She said, but, they might have a shock when they come into my kitchen. There are scooters on the floor, discarded boots from my children, toys scattered all over the place, boxes that my kids won't let me throw out because they say that they are their security boxes. Cushions scattered all over the floor of the lounge because I can't be bothered picking them up.
Yeah.
That's the sort of house she runs.
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
Well, what's your house like? Is your house like that?
I wouldn't say so, no. No. But, I mean, I think, as ever, you're being far too rigid about these things. I mean, some people who are very creative are not particularly good at tidying the things around them,
Well,
right?
that's obvious.
But being
It's obvious
creative...
from you.
But I think,
Mind you, you're not very creative.
I'd rather be creative than be some kind of, mad, cleaning crazy person.
I don't think you are creative.
You don't think I'm creative?
No. I think you are die in the wool.
Die in the wool?
Yeah, I think you're very predictable.
Do you mean died in the wool?
Died in the wool.
Died in the
I
wool.
can predict your behaviour.
Can you? What do you think I'm going to do next?
Well, it depends what I say to you next, And then
so you can't predict what I'm going to do next?
You'll respond to that.
I'm going to read you this from James, is what I'm going to do.
Right, go on.
Who's tweeted at IROMG. He says, what planet is Porky on? Right. Everyone should have a cleaner. MG, you are the man of the people. Porky is so self-obsessed.
No, I don't think that's true. Oh, yeah, a Zumba one here. This is from Gary. Right, hi, guys. Mike Parry is full of Zumba. It was born in the USA by a Brazilian guy who merged dance with aerobics.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
I like a bit of aerobics myself, actually.
Do you?
So there
Have
you
you
go.
got leggings?
No, I haven't.
Here's one from Mike who says, so would Mike Parry hold the door open if she was a bit of a munter, and would he see that as a sweet smile?
I think that is a disgusting expression to talk about a lady like that. If you mean...
a lady?
Yes.
A lady?
Yes.
I'm a lady.
Do you mean she wasn't the most attractive woman? She might not have been a Raquel Welch type figure. Of course, if she's a woman, she deserves the same respect, whether she looks like Raquel Welch or whether she looks like that lady.
That lady that you were going to meet for a drink, but you decided not to meet for a drink because she'd put a bit of weight on. Is that the woman you're talking about?
No, I was.
Not only would you not hold the door open for her, but you actually ran 100 miles in the opposite direction so you didn't have to see her.
No.
That's the kind of character you are.
No, I was never going to use a live and human individual. I was going to say that lady that was portrayed by that actress in the film Nanny McPhee.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because she was pretty ugly, wasn't she, Nanny McPhee?
Nanny McPhee,
She only had one tooth.
How about this one from Mars?
Yeah.
He says, I keep several get well cards at the coffee table. If unexpected guests arrive, they think I've been sick and unable to clean my place.
Well, that's not a bad idea, I suppose, but, you know,
that's quite sort of underhand,
but it's
isn't
a terrible deception. A terrible deception. When people occasionally come into my place and sit down, I always leave a note for the cleaning person to make sure they clean the area where that person has been, because most dust.
Does it not bother you, though, that because when I lived in New York, everybody did have a cleaner when you had a place in New York, and sometimes it would bother me that they would just move stuff everywhere and you couldn't find it.
Yeah, well, I think some cleaners move stuff just to try and impress you that they've polished here and they put it over there and all that kind of stuff. What I was going to say is 99% of dust is, in fact, dead skin flakes
you've
of humans.
explained that once before.
Yeah. Well, I don't want any dead skin flakes in my place, so I always mark out the area where the person who's been in my place has been and then tell the cleaner to specifically hoover and clean and wash that area to get rid of all the foreign skin particles.
You must love ordering people around. You just love ordering people around.
No, I don't order people around. It's a request. If you pay for a service, you're allowed to indicate which form of service you would like and how you'd like it done.
I feel very sorry for your housekeeper.
That's quite simple.
Have you seen the time, by the way?
No, I don't care about the time.
We're running very late. We do care about the time.
You're obsessed.
This is Talk Sport. He's Mike Parry. I'm Mike Graham. It's all very nearly time for Porky's quiz.
Talk Sport on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM. The enduring home of football.
It's modern radio, only better.
Talk Sport.
Did you see that story the other day? Because I don't know whether you can shed some light on this. I retweeted it, actually, a story about how Monopoly was originally invented by a woman.
Was it?
Because it turns out that one of the people who is credited with creating it has died recently, and so there was lots of obituaries appearing. Yeah. But apparently there's all sorts of rows about who actually invented Monopoly in the first place.
There always is about these things. You know, there's a row over who invented Volvo, Lego. All these sort of things.
Yeah.
There is. The one I think you're talking about, I remember seeing it this week, and it was a guy. I remember his name. His name is Victor Watson.
Right.
I remember that because we've got a person in this building who's called Watson, haven't we?
Have we?
And also Watson called Tom won the Open 5 times.
That's
didn't he?
right. And you were just talking about Emily Watson a little while ago.
Talking about Emily Watson. A lot of Watsons around. You know what I mean? Quite a popular name. So I remembered it was Victor because I thought Victor Meldrew, right, and Tom Watson.
Yes.
So that's how I keep the two together. That's my thinking
that's
mechanism.
Where your mind works.
My thinking mechanism.
Right.
But what this guy did is he took over. Do you remember all these games used to be produced by a company called Waddington, John Waddington? Yeah. And he was the bloke who I remember. I read his obituary. He was a theatrical printer in Leeds. You know, great industrial city in the 30s. When he suddenly took charge of this company called Waddington's, he needed a load of games to try and make it work because it was just doing things like snakes and ladders and printing bingo cards and that kind of stuff. And he went to America and he found a bloke who had this game called Monopoly, and
which was invented supposedly in America, and the ownership was still, I think, still owned by the Parker brothers, who started licensing the game outside of America, sort of in the 30s.
And they came from Atlantic City. Yeah. And the reason I remember that is because when I was working for the Express over there, I did fights in Atlantic City. Right.
And the original Monopoly was Atlantic City, wasn't it? It wasn't, it wasn't London. The actual the board game was actually Atlantic City.
Well, was it based on Atlantic City?
Yeah, the original one was. Yeah.
Oh well. Anyway, he as I read it, he got the rights to sell it worldwide, so he must have brought it back to this country and adopted London to it. So he must have been the guy who presumably put on all the very famous buildings which are now in Monopoly. Yeah. What are the famous buildings?
And what, in the London one?
Yeah, is it the Ritz Hotel?
Well, no, it's because it's not buildings, it's streets.
Oh, is it streets?
You must know them. Surely you could go round a Monopoly board. Could you not?
I thought...
Starts with Brown, Whitechapel Road, Old Kent Road.
No, but I thought it was full of, like, little red and blue buildings.
No.
Yes, it is.
No, you buy houses and you buy hotels.
That's what I mean.
But you put them on the property that you own, and the property is the street. For example, you would have, Pall Mall, Whitehall and Northumberland Avenue.
I've never played Monopoly.
You've never played Monopoly?
No, I've never played Monopoly.
How can you never have played Monopoly?
I don't know, but I never have. But I thought...
Even as a kid, you never played with your parents?
No.
See, this again points to the strangeness of your childhood.
I've seen people play Monopoly, but I always...
Where?
in my own house. And in
Well,
other people's homes.
Who would be playing it in your own house?
Well, you know, at Christmas you'd have a load of people round, like cousins and aunties and uncles, and they've been playing Monopoly. But it bored me to death.
Really?
Because
Well, it is a board game.
Eh?
It is a board game.
I like that. And but I thought it was all about. I thought the names of all the properties were like the Ritz Hotel, Buckingham Palace, Tower Bridge.
No,
I'm sure it was all.
Well,
that.
they have now done. They've done all sorts of new versions of it. For example, you get an Olympics. Somebody bought one of my kids an Olympic version of Monopoly, which has got things like the Olympic Stadium, which has got all sorts of different, perhaps properties. But the original London Monopoly board has just got streets. Because it's got, I mean, I'm amazed you've never played it because it's got Fleet Street in it. One of the things that I always like to buy is the 3 red properties because it's.
I totally agree.
It's the Strand, Fleet Street, and what's the Trafalgar Square?
Trafalgar Square. Listen, while we're talking about obituaries, one of the reasons I was reading the obituary pages was I was trying to find the obituary for the bloke who invented The Simpsons.
Oh, right.
Now he's died
well,
as well this week.
Talking about Monopoly. Yet.
Oh well, yeah, go on, keep going.
Because I wanted to tell you one interesting thing, which I know you will find fascinating, right? Because there's always a war connection, right? Do you know that in 1941, the British Secret Intelligence Service had John Waddington, who were the licensed manufacturer for the game in the United Kingdom, create a special edition for World War II prisoners of war.
Really?
And what they did was they put, instead of all the usual kind of toy things, inside the games, they had maps, compasses, real money, and other objects that they could use for escaping.
Really?
Isn't that amazing?
What, and the Germans let them have these
Well,
board
they didn't know. They didn't know because they were delivered to them.
That's what I mean. But the Germans didn't check them properly.
No, and they were
fantastic.
They were created by the Secret Service and distributed through fake charity groups.
I like that.
Isn't that great?
That's absolutely great. Now, listen, what I've got in front of me here.
You've just been presented with a Monopoly board.
Member of our production staff has just brought in.
You mean the executive producer?
The executive producer has just brought in Monopoly Tottenham Hotspur Legends Edition.
Blimey.
And there's pictures of all the great
You see, I'm not in favour of this. I'm not in favour of this.
Now, here. Now, you say you know what a normal Monopoly board looks like. I'll give you some of the squares on here.
Yeah.
Keith Birkinshaw's a square, former manager.
Yeah.
Season ticket. Bill Nicholson.
Yeah.
Go to the corner, collect $200 million salary.
So instead of the bank, it's got a salary, right, that you pick up.
And then there's a Pat Jennings stop. There's a
Have they got Martin Chivers?
Travel to European competition. Let me see. There's a Gaza.
Oh, yeah, Gaza's over here, yeah.
Yeah, there's a Gary Lineker, there's a Dave Mackay. You'd think there'd be a Martin Chivers.
Glenn Hoddle. Cliff Jones.
So that's the way they incorporate Monopoly into almost any situation you want, then, is it?
And I'm not in favour of that, because I think the original Monopoly, even though the original Monopoly was Atlantic City, the original and best Monopoly, surely, is the basic London one, because that's the one that everybody wants to play. But I'm staggered by the fact that you've never played Monopoly.
No, never played Monopoly.
Maybe we should have a game.
Well, what's the point? I don't play it, and I think it's boring.
Well, no, because it's all about your favourite subject. It's all about acquiring property.
Yeah, but it's fake money. That's what I think. Do you know what? I think that's what put me off.
Really?
The money looks so toy townish. And what I liked at Christmas was I liked people to give me real money.
Yeah.
And
we could play with real money.
And I'd go upstairs in my bedroom and count all the real money and see how much money. No, I would. Yeah, to see how much money I'd got.
Very strange.
And I didn't like the fake money.
One of the theories about one of the original kind of founders of the game was that it was originally invented in 1903 as a way to demonstrate the evils of land ownership.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, who buy it?
And capitalism.
A bunch of communists.
By a guy called Clarence Darrow.
Well, he must have been a commie.
Yeah, I think he might have been.
Where was he from?
He was from the US.
Well, you see, that was a dangerous time to be a commie in the US.
Yeah.
And they got rid of most of them in the 50s, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
What was it called? What's the name of hearings?
The McCarthy hearings.
McCarthy hearings, that's right, yeah.
I don't think that was a good thing, by the way.
Well, it wasn't, because it's turned Hollywood now into a hotbed of sort of left-wing socialists, hasn't it? And they have been ever since.
Yeah, they're such. I mean, Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, the great socialists that they are.
Yeah, combined wealth of $350 million.
Exactly.
Yes. The guy who died for The Simpsons, by the way, have we finished talking about Monopoly now?
Yes, we have. Yes.
Right. Okay. A guy called Sam Simon. And
he died quite young, didn't he? He was only about 56
59.
59.
Brilliant but irascible co-creator of The Simpsons, both the longest-running American sitcom and the longest-running animated programme in the history of television. He was the creative force also behind the commercial successes of Taxi, Cheers and The Drew Carey Show. What a man, eh?
I know, incredible.
You've
seen The Simpsons, I presume.
No, I never watched
You've never seen The Simpsons either?
I have seen fleeting minutes of you can't miss it because it was on all the time. Fleeting minutes of a programme here. I know what Bart Simpson looks like, and I know the mother has this huge piled up hairdo.
And Homer is the kind of star
Homer's
of the show.
the nutty father.
Yeah.
But I've never watched an episode of The Simpsons from start to finish. Doesn't Mr. Murdoch own The Simpsons in America?
Well, if interesting enough, where it started on Fox.
That's what I'm saying.
It
Fox
started.
is his network.
Do you remember Tracy Ullman?
Tracy Ullman, of course I do.
She was a British comedian who went over and started doing a show for Fox in America.
Right.
And The Simpsons started as like a little kind of
vignette
into her show.
It's a bit like Riverdance started as a 4-minute interlude in the Eurovision Song Contest.
Oh, did it?
Yes, it did, yeah.
How bizarre.
Yeah.
Yeah, so The Simpsons kind of started from that very small...
And it grew from there, did it?
And it grew from there, and I believe you're right. I think it is still owned by Fox.
Yeah, well, if it is, it's a gold mine, isn't it?
One hell of a money spinner.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And presumably this chap, this Sam Simon, he must have taken that vignette that you're talking about now to... Oh, yeah, it says here, wait a minute. His fellow producer on the Tracy Ullman Show.
Yes.
Yeah, in 1989, at 34 years of age, Simon was a television veteran when James Brooks, his fellow producer on the Tracy Ullman Show, and a colleague from his days on Taxi, approached him to help turn Matt Groening's 1-minute cartoon shorts with these characters in it into a fully fledged series.
Amazing.
That is amazing.
Now, we have to look at the time. However, just before that, Jay says there was an Everton version of Monopoly and a Beatles version of it a few years ago.
Really?
They covered every area they can with it. And Mark, who's a bit of a wag, says there's a U2 version of Monopoly, but it's frustrating to play because the streets have no name.
The streets have no name.
Very good.
Well, the
All right, no
streets
singing.
have no
We'll have plenty of chances to
names.
sing because next it's time for the Porky quiz and it's on John Lennon.
Bring it on.
On digital radio and 1089 and 1053 AM. Talks.
It's that time of the week. Highlight
Yep.
of the week, some
I am
people
the
think.
Eggman. Yeah, could
I
be
am the
true.
Eggman.
I'm the Walrus. Yeah,
I'm the Walrus. Paul is dead and all that.
yeah.
Right.
And by the way, the most repulsive cover version of any Beatles record ever was that chap Brandt singing "I Am the Walrus"
Brandt?
at the opening or closing ceremony of the 2012 Olympic Games in London. You know, Brand or whatever his name is.
Oh, Russell Brand.
Yeah, you know, the so-called commie who's worth about 20 million. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That wasn't very good, was it? The
No.
closing ceremony wasn't very good at all.
Yeah.
As ever, the subject matter is John Lennon, as you chose earlier on in the week.
Yes.
And I've already had a text from somebody who says, make sure there's no questions about the Beatles, it's about John Lennon. So
Exactly.
people are already trying to pile in on the alleged gerrymandering.
Well, the gerrymandering is a huge issue with these, and I'm glad now that millions of our listeners are on the ball and on the case and will hold you to account.
Well, never
so
mind all
make
that.
sure the questions are proper questions.
They're all about John Lennon.
Not erroneous.
You just want questions about John Lennon, right?
Yeah.
That's what you want.
Yeah.
Now, as ever, they've been compiled by some independent quiz masters.
Of which you're the chairman of the board.
I'm not at all involved.
Yes, you are.
If you get one
Liar.
correct, you will hear this sound.
That's
If
good.
you get one wrong, you'll hear this sound.
Yeah, okay.
That's quite good, isn't it?
Yeah, it's quite good.
Are you ready for
Quite
question
good.
number one?
I'm ready.
Which Liverpool primary school did John Lennon attend?
He passed 11 plus and went to Quarry Bank High School. Sorry, what do you...
I didn't ask you what...
And I wasn't giving you an answer.
Oh, right, what were you giving me?
I was thinking aloud.
Oh,
I was
okay.
thinking, right, now, where did he come from? And it was called something like Pellinpop.
Pellinpop?
Yeah, or Fellinpo.
Is that your answer?
Well, it was like that.
Is that your answer?
Yes, that's my answer.
Incorrect.
What's the answer?
The answer is Dovedale Primary School.
Dovedale. Well, that's an idiotic question anyway. It's got nothing to do with John Lennon, the musician. I did not
You
want
said
a quiz.
you wanted questions about John Lennon.
I did not want a quiz on John Lennon, the 6-year-old, you
Okay.
blithering idiot.
Well, let's
I want
move
a
on.
question on John Lennon, the Beatle, the songwriter, the musician,
All
the
right.
greatest composer of the second half of the 20th century.
Okay.
So get that straight.
Maybe you should have set the questions yourself.
Juice
Question
head.
number 2. When was the solo album Imagine released?
Imagine was released in 1970.
Incorrect.
No, it's right.
1971.
Rubbish.
It's true.
1970 it first came out. 1971 it was released in
Not
America
true.
and Japan.
Not true.
It is true.
Question number 3. What was the name of the doctor who gave John and Yoko primal therapy in California in 1970?
What?
What was the name of the doctor? Very famous.
Dr. Robert.
Dr. Robert.
No, hang on. I'm thinking aloud.
That was one of the songs, wasn't it? Dr. Roberts.
Yeah, it was, yeah. But I mean, they used to write songs about people they met. Now, then,
Yeah.
I am just thinking aloud.
All right.
Now, what was the question again?
What was the name of the doctor who gave John and Yoko primal therapy in California in 1970?
Scream. They used to scream.
That's right.
Ah! Used to go into rooms, literally, which are dark, and roll around on the floor and go, ah!
I know. This was the guy who came up with that therapy. That's why you should know his name.
Well, hang on a minute, hang on. Did you say he's very famous?
Yes.
Who else was into primal therapy? I'm just trying to think now. Doctor... it wasn't Dr. Spock. Because he was... what are you laughing at, you idiot?
No, he wasn't Dr.
Spock.
He was a child specialist.
Yeah, but also he used to run the old spaceship as well, didn't he?
No, that was Mr. Spock.
Oh, Mr. Spock, yeah. Let me think now. That would be Dr...
I'll have to hurry you.
Where was this, in California?
Yes.
They're all mad in California anyway.
Yeah.
He's probably changed his name by now.
Yeah, well, what was his name then?
His name then... Doctor... Was it Dr. Devious?
Incorrect. Dr. Devious. Would have been a good name, though.
Actually, I think that was the name of a horse that won the...
Dr. Devious.
No, he won the Derby, honestly.
Sounds like one of those ones from... what's his name? You know, the fake secret agent.
He won the Derby. These are all very obscure questions.
Dr. Arthur Yanov was his name.
Arthur Yanov.
Question number 4.
Bloody imposter.
How many O-levels did John Lennon get?
John Lennon got no O-levels.
Correct.
Hey. Woo, woo, woo.
One
on the
out
winning
of 4.
trail now, on the winning trail.
1 out of 4. Question number 5.
Yeah.
Yoko Ono wrote Death of Samantha about an incident in 1972. What was it?
It was about somebody dying. I'm just thinking aloud here. Death of Samantha, 1972. Now, she had a long custody battle with her first husband for custody of her child.
Who Yoko did.
Yoko did.
Well, this has got to do with John Lennon, though.
Oh, Death of what?
Death of Samantha.
Death of Samantha.
So I've helped you out there.
Hang on.
Giving you a clue there.
Written by Yoko Ono.
Yes.
I wonder if this could be something to do with the bedding. The bedding, you see, in Toronto and Amsterdam, which is where he wrote "Give Peace a Chance."
Yeah.
What is called again? Death of who?
Death of Samantha.
Samantha's a dog. It was a dog. I bet it was. I think it could have. No, I'm only thinking aloud. That's not my answer. Death of Samantha.
You didn't think I was shaking my head then, did you? I was just scratching my chin.
No. Death of Samantha could be...
I'll have to hurry you.
Death of Samantha. I think it's something to do with Japanese knotweed.
No, incorrect.
What?
Japanese nutweed. It was an incident at a post-election party in New York at the home of Jerry Rubin. Lennon got drunk and had sex with another woman.
What, while he was going out with Yoko?
Yes, I'm afraid so.
I didn't know about that.
No, there you go. OK, well, it was a very difficult one, that. Now, question number 6.
Right.
John Lennon collaborated with a New York band in the early 70s with whom he recorded an album and performed 2 benefit concerts. What was their name?
So you're not talking about the Yoko Ono band?
Not the Plastic Ono band, no.
Plastic Ono.
This was a band that he collaborated with in the early 70s. He made a couple of albums and performed 2 benefit concerts.
Right, I reckon, you see, the name's unimportant. It was who with him. One of them was Harry What's-His-Name, who sung Without You. Harry Nilsson.
Harry Nilsson.
Harry Nilsson.
No, he's not one of them.
What do you mean he's
That's
not one of them?
the name of a band I want.
The name of the band? A band? Now, Lennon never played with 2 bands. 3 actually. The Quarrymen, the Beatles, and the Plastic Ono band, and he was never a member of another band. He collaborated with this band, performed 2 benefit concerts with them, and made an album. I reckon it was that band, the American boys. They did. There's an answer to the reason why. There's a feeling that my love can fly. That's the reason.
Oh, I know that. Yeah, no,
right.
It's not them. Incorrect.
What do you mean it's not them?
Incorrect.
Right.
It's a band called Elephant's Memory.
I haven't even given you an answer.
Well, that was your answer.
It wasn't an answer.
Look at the time. We've only got halfway through the quiz. So far, you got 1 out of 6. Question number 7. You should get this one. With whom did Lennon spend what he called a lost weekend in 1973?
1973?
Yeah.
That was with Yoko Ono's personal assistant.
That's correct.
Yes.
Can you give me a name?
Well, he had another Japanese name, but it wasn't
true.
Yoko or Ono.
I'll give you that, because I'm feeling generous.
Excellent.
Her name was May Pang.
May Pang. They went to California.
That's right, they did.
Yeah.
And they actually went there for 18 months.
They did, yeah.
And he referred to it as a lost weekend.
That's right.
Question number 8. Lennon had 3 solo number 1 singles in the UK.
Right.
Can you name them?
Wowee. Well, I'm thinking aloud now.
OK.
One of them was almost certainly Imagine. One of them was almost certainly his first one, which was Instant Karma. So, Instant Karma's gonna get you. Gonna knock you right on the head. There's that one. And then Imagine There's No People. And then the third one would be... It could have been woman, I can hardly express. Or it could be power to the people or something like that. I'm going to say...
What are your three then? Come on.
Right, my three are instant karma, imagine, and woman.
Incorrect. Two of them are right. You got imagine and woman were correct.
Right.
I don't know if we've got the third one. Have we got the third one?
It must have been instant karma.
Have you got the third one there? No, it hasn't got it. Starting over was the third one.
Starting over. That wasn't a great
Just
record,
like starting over. Oh, I like that.
And I know... yeah, okay.
All right, never mind.
Yeah, but I mean, instant karma should have been number one. That's the point.
It should have been, but it wasn't.
So I can't account for the taste of the blitheringly idiotic
but that
teenage
still means you've got two.
people of the year of 1970, of which I was one. I bought it.
Here's a chance for you to redeem yourself. How many studio albums did John Lennon make as a solo artist?
Oh, my God, how ridiculous. In which country? On which continent?
He made a number of studio albums.
Internationally or domestically?
They were released everywhere.
No. They're different compilation lines. I would say 7.
Incorrect. Correct answer is 11.
11.
And then finally, you should get this one. Number 10. Yeah. Where is Lennon's killer Mark Chapman incarcerated?
At the moment, I think he's in Rikers. But I'm thinking aloud here. I think he's Rikers Island. But certainly in New York State. New York State.
He is incarcerated in New York State.
Yeah.
Can you be any more specific than that? I can only give you half a point for that.
Well, there's 50 states in America, so that's pretty good. I got it down to 150th.
No, it's not pretty good. He was convicted of murder in New York. Therefore, he would be incarcerated in New York State.
Is it something like... so if it's not Rikers Island, it's something like... It sounds like Altamont, but it's not Altamont.
You want to say Attica, don't you?
Attica.
Incorrect.
Let me down the garden path there.
No, I didn't. He was... I'm going to give you half a point because you've got that nearly right. He was actually moved in 2012 to a place called the Vendy Correctional Facility near Buffalo. Yeah. So I'm afraid that means that you've got a grand total
But that's got nothing to do with John Lennon.
What? Where his killer is held?
Hang on, John Lennon died in 1980.
Yeah.
That was the end of the John Lennon legend.
Was it?
Yeah, the living legend.
So. Well, he had...
That's a ridiculous question.
He had more record sales after he died than he had before.
That's a ridiculous question.
You've got a grand
to do
total, as I predicted, of 3.5 out of 10.
The listeners will see through you again. The listeners are on my side.
3.5 out of 10. Absolute
Power to
shambles.
the people.
Absolute shambles.
Power to the people.
Give peace a chance.
On DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
A terrific performance.
Turn of pace and eye for goal.
Shout about it.
Talk sport.
A couple of tweets have come in on the subjects of your quiz performance. Here's one from Craig who says, so much for Porky loving John Lennon, the worst points tally in the quiz's history.
Yeah, but they were the worst questions. They were the worst questions. I am not even getting angry about it because they were the worst questions. I know what I know about John Lennon. I don't need anybody to tell me how much I know about John Lennon, OK? I'm a student of John Lennon, one of the world's experts. Ridiculous questions about, A, where he went to primary school, and B, where is his killer locked up 40 years after he was killed.
These are things that an expert on John Lennon would know. Ali has done a very interesting tally of the things that you've said. Question number 3? No one wants questions on Lennon the 6-year-old. This is what you said. Question number 4, I haven't even given you an answer. Question number 5, how ridiculous. Question number 6, you led me down the garden path. Question number 7, ridiculous question, what's his killer got to do with Lennon? You know, it just goes on and on. Yeah,
but I mean, your stupid questions go on and on, so I have to respond to them.
All right. Well, next week we'll come up with a better subject for you, okay? Yeah. How about that?
Yeah, better subject.
Now, before we go and compile the ending of the podcast and the show and all of that, what do you think of these stories on the back pages this morning? A lot of talk this week of Chelsea bullying the referee at Stamford Bridge against Paris Saint-Germain. Even poor old Zlatan Ibrahimovic, who I feel has probably spoken a little bit out of turn. I mean, this is not a guy that you can push around, is it?
Well, he felt hard done to, and he got the ultimate revenge.
He was hard
done to. Of course he was. The Mail have done this brilliantly because nobody else has quite got to the core of the matter. Yeah. And what the Mail are accusing Chelsea of doing is intimidating referees so badly with a very well-practiced and professional intimidatory routine. They show a picture which was taken at 30 minutes, 48 seconds of the game, OK? Yeah. And this is just before the... what's his name again?
Zlatan Ibrahimovic was sent off,
Yeah, exactly. So the moment of impact, when he was sent off, happened at 30 minutes, 48 seconds, and it shows a field of players all in their right positions. i.e. full-backs where full-backs should be, forward should be midfield players. They then take a picture at 30 minutes 53 seconds, which is 5 seconds later, and 9 Chelsea players are surrounding the referee, demanding action against.
And something like that has to be orchestrated, doesn't it? You can't just do that. You can't just do that without planning it.
Of course it is. And then, that's on the inside back. On the back, we'll carry on hounding refs. All the other teams do it. Blast Terry. John Terry defended his Chelsea teammates yesterday against claims they behaved like babies and insisted that they would continue to pressure referees. Paris Saint-Germain's Zlatan Ibrahimovic made the accusation after 9 Chelsea players surrounded the referee to get him sent off for a tackle on Oscar in the Champions League last 16 game on Wednesday. Jamie Carragher said on Sky the behaviour of Chelsea's players was disgraceful, and Graham Souness called it pathetic.
Yeah. Well, certainly, Gary Neville did have a go at it as well, because, later on in the game, as I was watching it, some of the Paris Saint-Germain players started, surrounding the referee. We've seen Barcelona do it.
Yes.
Certainly seen Real Madrid do it. Certainly the Italians probably were the people who started it back in, the sort of 90s when Italian football was a massive thing. And, in the Champions League, and I've always said that this is why Manchester City fail, that you have to do stuff like that, because in the end, otherwise you get beaten by gamesmanship.
You say that, but it's a very cynical and more to the point sinister sort of tactic. And John Terry's not at all shy of admitting it. Listen to this here, this quote from what he said: "To run 20 or 30 yards doesn't look great, but I'll support my teammates, and once I go, 4 or 5 of them go with me. They know to go with me. Right. That's part of the game. We'll match it if people want to mix it." So Terry is it's almost like watching what's the is it in cycling when
peloton?
No, not the peloton. When you're going round in a velodrome or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
And when the leader suddenly breaks and goes out, then all the others have to follow him. It's almost like that, isn't it?
Except I think it's probably even more organised than that. They probably had the conversation with Jose Mourinho before the game.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
And he said, because he did all this stuff before the game about how they were a very aggressive team. Paris Saint-Germain were worse than Shrewsbury, worse than Bradford, anybody else that Chelsea had played. And so as soon as anybody fouled someone, that was bound to happen. But interestingly enough, I was listening to Drive yesterday, and Darren Goff was saying, and I didn't see this, I haven't seen the slow motion, but the referee already had the red card out in his hand before all the Chelsea players actually surrounded him.
Apparently he did. Apparently that was the case, so it must have gone out very quickly. But another one here. Terry understands what his manager wants. That's Jose Mourinho, obviously. Yeah. This includes turning the heat on officials, as he did on Wednesday against Paris Saint-Germain, when he led 8 excited teammates in pursuit of the referee, Bjorn Kulippers, he must be Scandinavian, to ensure Zlatan Ibrahimovic was sent off.
Yeah, I know.
I think it's pretty cynical behaviour.
It is cynical. Now, listen, I'm going to ask you for a prediction, not about football, not about cricket, but about Jeremy Clarkson. What's going to happen over the weekend? Because Clarkson writes a column for the Sunday Times. There's bound to be something going on which will sort of reveal everything, right?
Well, one of the papers tonight suggests, first, all the papers are reporting that it was Clarkson who shopped himself.
Yeah.
He rang up his immediate, line manager, whatever you call him, at the BBC and said, look, there's been an altercation here out on location.
Right.
Now, there's 2 theories about why he did that. One is that actually his own crew had turned against him, and they thought that he was unreasonable to the man that he verbally assaulted, and a bit of pushing and shoving. That's explanation 1. Explanation 2 is he's so fed up with the BBC now, he wanted to exit it, but he didn't want to let down the millions of viewers.
Because he's got this contract to sign coming up in the next month or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He didn't want to cynically let down a load of viewers and say he went off somewhere else for more money, so he's engineered it. So which of the 2 are true, I don't know. He seemed very relaxed the morning after it was announced, when he came out of his house and said, I'm off to the job centre.
And so did the other 2 as well.
Yeah. Listen, one thing I want to tell you about before we go, only got a minute left, right? Yeah. I'm so hurt with this story. A little dolphin is looking for a family and swimming around Britain. It can't find one. He gets rejected everywhere.
What do you mean he gets rejected?
A bottlenose dolphin who has spent 3 years... No, I'm very concerned about this.
Don't talk absolute cobblers.
A bottlenose dolphin who has
spent
spent 3 years roaming British waters in the search for a pod that he can join has turned up off the coast of Dorset. He's named Clet, C-L-E-T.
Oh, who named him that then? His mother?
Dorset, people in Dorset, he's been there 3 times.
Well, why don't they take him in?
Hang on, he's between 7 and 9 years old. He's swum 1,500 miles between Cornwall, Wales and Ireland and the Scottish island of Mull, and he meets other dolphin pods, 3 so far.
Yeah.
They're usually family groups, but they've all rejected him and told him to push off.
Why? Does he never shut up?
Poor little dolphin hasn't got a family. I hate people who are lonely because I feel for them. I don't mind loneliness, but others
you
can't.
don't mind it at all, do you?
Others can't
doesn't
handle
get
it.
to you, does it?
Others
at
can't
any point?
handle it. Others
Well,
can't
why don't you
handle
just
it.
go and get a big net and catch him and take him back to Porky Towers, and you can look after him, put him in a big tank, and you and he can be lonely together.
I nearly wept when I read about the little Clet the dolphin. I feel so sorry for him.
Yeah.
I've got to do something for him.
Yeah, well, you'll do nothing for him at all. You're just trying to seek the approval of the masses as well, and the millions out there who think that you're actually a compassionate person, but you don't care anything at all.
Dolphins.
No, you don't. Rubbish. Absolute rubbish.
The lonely dolphin.
I'll ask you next Monday about him, and you will have forgotten his name.
If John Lennon was still alive, he'd have written a song now, The Lonely Dolphin.
Yeah, he'd probably have eaten him. Don't forget to follow the Two Mics, at the Two Mics on Twitter and on YouTube. Just look for Two Mics TV.